To be here. Oh, I've been waiting for this moment and praying over this word for so long. But you heard just a little bit about who I am, and one of my first things that I love to share about myself is that I'm a mom. I have four incredible children who are here today. Thank you, guys. I'm married to Trevor DeCourcy, who is my rock. I love you. He even saved me today when I forgot my easels, which was like the only thing I needed to remember, and I forgot it. So thank you, Trevor. But we've been married for 20 years. We just celebrated our anniversary. Well, actually, we're going closer to 21 now. But so, I'm an artist. It's really fun to be back here to share some paintings. I think we need to pray for the Swanson family because they helped me install them last time, and they were still wet. They were that fresh and new, and I think I gave them maybe a little PTSD from hauling that for me. But thank you, you guys. I love you so much. But I've been doing ministry for many years now. I actually got to go to Luther Seminary where I graduated, and I got to be their artist in residence there. So that was quite an incredible opportunity. I really love teaching the Bible, at any capacity, anywhere that I can go do that. And I love how it works within my art. But recently, the Lord's really asked me to kind of put down that ministry life and kind of pick up the brush again. And that was kind of a wrestle, because I thought I knew the trajectory. But I've been producing a lot of new paintings, and you guys have seen some of the latest ones coming from the studio. But there's one right here, and it's much smaller than I generally like to paint. As you can see, I like kind of large-scale images. But this one right here, this hands, when this came to me not that long ago, I knew it was for Mother's Day. Like, I didn't really understand why, but when it came into my mind, as paintings often do, I just went, oh, that's my Mother's Day painting. I've never had a Mother's Day painting before. I wonder why. That's kind of in my spirit. And I didn't really understand until I sat down to put this message together. So I'll kind of go into where that started. It was April 7th, so not that long ago. And I was really thanking God for just some breakthroughs happening and going on in my world. I just felt like some weights had been lifted. Things just didn't feel so heavy. Some of those heavy things were just gone. Even though circumstances hadn't really changed, everything just felt a little lighter. And I was just sitting and praying. I love to ask Jesus to come into those places and moments with me of gratitude. And I just said, Lord, what's on your heart for me today? And I'm a visual thinker. I even pray in images often. So it's no wonder that this is really how God speaks to me. But I just saw this image of a hand, the Father's hand. And it looked like my hand was in there with him. Is the mic okay? Okay. And as I looked at that, I just asked the Lord, what do you want to know? What do you want me to know about this image of my hand in your hand? And I felt like the Lord just said, do you see how your hand fits in my hand? That's because you were created in my image. You reflect the Father. You reflect me. And everything you do is a reflection of the one you belong to. And you belong to me. And that meant so much to me. I can't tell you what that meant. Actually, I started painting that day. That's how much it meant to me. Because I knew it was about this reflection. And I knew it had that question in it. What does it mean to belong to him? What does it actually mean to be created in his image? And how do we reflect that into the world? But here's why I want to share this today. Because years ago, I wasn't able to receive this at all. Years ago, I think it was head knowledge. Like, I knew Jesus loved me, but I don't think it was heart knowledge. There was just a wall or a block or something that was there. Just because of all the things, life can throw your way. It just wasn't even a truth that I could really wrap my heart around. An identity I didn't even really know was mine. So my prayer today on this beautiful Mother's Day is that we get to look at this image together, and we get to remember who we belong to and really what that means. So I grew up in North Branch, not too far away from here for the most part of my life. My parents divorced when I was just about 4 years old, and I didn't grow up in a church of any kind. I knew about Jesus I know my father talked about him a little, but I didn't really understand Jesus or God or what that really meant. I did go to confirmation in middle school because my friends went and invited me. And I do remember really starting to come to life in the idea of who Jesus was. And I experienced God in many other ways, but mostly I was biblically illiterate. I tell a lot of people that, and that's why I'm so passionate about studying the Word today. It was really hard. I felt like I was always kind of left out of that family dynamic or the church. My mom was a single mom, and things were really challenging for us. She worked really, really hard, and we moved around a lot, and we had to rebuild our lives each time. But she was an artist, and I wanted to be just like her, even though I watched her struggle. Years and years and years of struggling to follow her own dreams. And she told me not to do it. She told me not to pursue art because of how hard it was. But, like a good kid, I didn't listen, and I decided to go to school for it anyway. I went to University of Duluth, Trevor and I did. And then in college, I actually met Jesus in a really profound way. I wasn't expecting it, because at that point I was really studying maybe Greek mythology, religions of the world, and I got this opportunity to study abroad in Greece. And I thought, I'll go there and study ancient art and architecture. But what really met me on the streets of Athens and all across the country was just the Christian community of the Greek Orthodox Church. You couldn't escape it. It was everywhere. And I really valued that because I wanted to take a piece of that home with me, because it seemed like Christianity was alive and everywhere. In my only experience, it felt a little more closed behind doors that I didn't even really felt like I belonged to or invited into. So I came back from that trip, and at the time I was pursuing a degree in art education, but I switched my degree to study just painting. And I thought, I just want to study the Bible through my paintings. So I started painting images of things that brought me into the scripture so I could start to see myself in the Bible a little bit. But that didn't land so well with my peers or my professors, unfortunately. They just didn't get it, or actually had a professor in my senior show say, your technique is great, but there's really no future for what you're doing. There's no market, there's no audience. And I wish I could say, I just let that go, and I was like, no, I'll make a way. I'll work hard. I'll figure it out. But it really was a hard sell. It was really hard to break into that art market. Should we switch? Thank you. Is that better? Okay. Yay. We can clap. That's good. So anyway, it was very discouraging. I had to kind of let that dream go, decide that it just wasn't meant to be. After college, it was just hard to find that path. But what I did find was becoming a mother, planting our roots down. Trevor and I bought a church. We didn't buy a church. We bought a house after college. That would be challenging to buy a church as well. But life got bigger, life grew. We planted down into a church and just experienced that goodness for a long time. And I started really finding my place as a mom in this world and my identity and that goodness. And my voice in the church and in ministry, and just kind of started feeling that call and that path to ministry. But as I did, simultaneously, a lot of those wounds, unhealed beliefs about myself, about God, about other people, really started coming to the surface. And it all came to a head, as things do when it rains, it pours, in 2017, when just a series of really, really overwhelming things came against my life and my world and collided. And suddenly anxiety, panic attacks, depression, all of those things became these constant messages where these lies and these words of I wasn't enough, even though I didn't really know that's what the narrative was. It was just all these inadequacies of feeling like a failure, feeling like I wasn't enough as a mom, as a wife, and as a Christian. I was still really trying to navigate what it meant to be a good Christian. So I started counseling at the time, which seemed like the right thing to do, and I'm very glad I did. But she really helped expose some of those things I wasn't aware of. And then she told me this one thing, that she believed in my lifetime that it might be impossible for me to understand the love of God because of all the things that she saw that was coming up. And I heard that, and I thought, but this is all I want. I just want to know my Father. I want to know who I belong to. Am I that broken that you think I'll never have that? And when I tell that story, people gasp, and they're like, how could she say that? But I understand. She was trying to really help me see what was happening inside that I couldn't see because of these massive distortions. I felt like I had to prove my worth to God. I thought that was love. And I needed to prove it so that I have value, so then he'd use me. Because I thought, well, if you're a good Christian, God has to use you. So I'd pray every day, Lord, use me, use me. But that led to so much people-pleasing, so much burnout, overextending myself. I even had I just feel my husband shaking his head, a just say yes policy at the time. Even with our children and everything we had going on, anything anyone needed, yes, yes. Because if it's good, it must be God. And if God sent it, I can't say no, because that might make God angry. I don't want to make angry because then he won't make him angry because then he won't use me. So you can just hear, you can see those false narratives that were just consuming, that were taking away my joy, my life. And it all came back to this image of me not being enough, not for God. And you know how that filters into all your relationships. And how can you love somebody or make them know that they're loved if they can't even receive it? If they're living their life so lost that they don't even think that they deserve it. And somehow, even through these storms of where I was at, I laugh when I look back at it because only God. But he opened some miraculous ways for me to go to seminary where I received a full ride scholarship. But then that ramped up more fear. That just out of the roof, it was intense thinking, well, I can't do that. I'm not qualified. I hardly know my Bible. Everybody's going to know that I'm a fake. What is God even calling me to do? But I was still seeking these answers. I was still trying to figure out if I could make a way to know the right and perfect path to follow God, because I was getting confused at some of the things I read in the Bible, some of the things I was learning in the church, or denominational differences. And I thought, I'll just go and get it all figured out. It's got to be black and white. So then, a few years into seminary, it was extremely hard and lonely. It was hard to find my voice. It challenged me to the core. It deconstructed every part of my faith and belief. I wanted to quit so many times because I didn't even know what Christianity meant to me anymore. And I had been so sold out for the Lord and done everything I thought was right. But it seemed like the more I was trying to find him in this way and on this path, the further he was getting from me. And I feel like I like to think in pictures, so if I was standing on a road, I'd have these friends over here saying, come over here, this is the way, the truth, and the life. And I'd have a line over here, but they'd point over here and say, don't talk to those Christians, because they're not even Christian. And then it felt like, okay. And then I'd go over here on this path, and they'd say, no, we have the truth, but don't talk to them, because they're not Christian. And I'd just paralyzed. I didn't even know what was truth anymore. I didn't even know how to make a decision in my life anymore. So panic attacks start really rearing up then. So of course, with all my own inner healing and the lenses I was using to think about this, you can see how hard that was. What does it mean to be made in his image when you can't even see him anymore? When you can't even see yourself? But one day, because God is good, I was sitting in the back of a church, which I'm never in the back of a church. I like to be in the front. But I was lamenting. I'd had it. And suddenly, a worship team came onto the stage. And bless you, worship team. You guys were amazing today. I was wrecked before I even got up here. And this worship team started playing a song by Garth Brooks, which is not your everyday worship song at church. And it was To Make You Feel My Love. Anybody know that song? To Make You Feel My Love? Well, you know how a scent or a song or something can transport you if you hear it or smell it, and all of a sudden you're in an old memory? It's just powerful, right? Well, that's what happened when that song started playing. I was transported all the way back to when I was a young kid. I used to listen to that song on repeat, and I probably hadn't heard it in a lifetime. That's why it impacted me and jolted me so much out of my lamenting in the back of the church. And all of a sudden I could remember that a lot of that baggage that I was feeling today was there in that room with me when I was younger, listening to this song, hungering for a love that existed in the world like that. And let me just read a few of these lyrics. I know you haven't made your mind up yet, but I would never do you wrong. I've known it from the moment that we met. There's no doubt in my mind where you belong. And it was like, as those lyrics hit me, I felt like Jesus was with me when I was that little girl. Suddenly it's like I could see that was Jesus singing those words to me. I just didn't know. I didn't have that relationship. I didn't have that awareness. It was just this love in this song. But it was like, wow, God, I think you've always been with me. I think you were with me then. It feels like I can see that what you were doing then, and I can see it right now in what you're saying to my life. I know you haven't made your mind up yet, but I would never do you wrong. And then the next lyric goes, I'd go hungry, I'd go black and blue, I'd go crawling down the avenue. And again, when I was a kid listening to that song, Garth Brooks, I wasn't imagining Jesus, but I could see Jesus going hungry for me for 40 days, denying himself. I could see him getting black and blue from all the stripes that he bore for me. I could see, again, I have no idea what crawling down the avenue must have meant to me, but in this moment, I could see him crawling down the street with the weight of the cross on his back for me. And I think that message of the cross, I'd always looked at it thinking that is a symbol of my sin and how bad I am, and because I'm not enough, which I know what the cross did and how it's brought us back to God. But it was like in that day, he wanted me to see his love for me that he was wearing that day. It was like he was calling me back to his heart, back to where I belong through that song. And suddenly, I didn't care about answers. I'd been sitting in the back of that church going, God, I don't want anything. They even did a healing service, and I remember saying, I don't want your healing. I want your answers. I want you to tell me why bad things happen. I want you to tell me where you are and how you're still a good father. And suddenly, just knowing that he was always with me, that I was never alone, got rid of every single need. He gave me more than enough in that moment. And then a phrase he gave to me after was, I am yours and you are mine. And just that one phrase, it might not mean anything to you, but it just brought everything together of what I needed to receive from him that I hadn't been able. Because what it meant was, I was always able to say, you are mine to God, because he's God, he's good enough. I loved saying, you are mine, you are mine, you are mine. But I could never imagine that he was saying that to me. I am yours, but you are mine. And he was saying it with just as much excitement and joy and love as I was to him. I've never been the same since I could receive those words. And actually, I look at people so effortlessly now of who they are
made in his image, who they belong to. I understand now because I finally could see it in myself. And that question that I had ended up in seminary asking at the end was, but how do we love one another? That's all I wanted to know. And it felt like nobody could really answer that for me. Until after I graduated, I came across a preacher in Sydney, Australia, Matt Beckenham. He's a good friend of mine now. But he had this one phrase, that love was measured by presence. Love is measured by presence. So what does that mean? Well, if you think of my story, I was trying to measure love in all kinds of things, not by presence. But that love in that moment that I experienced in moments after that, that love taught me, that love transformed me, that love led me to life. His presence showed me that I was enough just because he was with me. And it wasn't my clever theological degree. It wasn't about any qualifications. It wasn't measured by how enough I was. I was never alone. And there was absolutely no place that I could ever go that he wouldn't show up. And then he just from there and just trying to always figure out your path and what do you want me to do, Lord? That was something that was so paralyzing to me. All he was asking me to do is walk with me. It's not about right and wrong. You're going to get it right sometimes. You might get it wrong sometimes. It's just that relationship with me. You are mine. You belong to me. Now I just want you to reflect that love into the world. And I really believe in that place of walking in that path of presence. The purpose of your life just unfolds, and the truth unfolds, because he is the way, the truth, and the life. So I just want to end. I love to anchor our experience. I love to anchor everything in the Word. I love diving into the Word. And as I sat with this message, this image this week, and just praying, Lord, just where in the Bible are we going with this? I thought of the first place that we see this idea of being made in his image. So if we go to Genesis 1 really quick. So God created man in his image. And if you look at the Hebrew and the Greek here for image, it's likeness. But it can also mean shade or shadow. It can mean an outline of the original, or it's the same with the shadow. It's like a cast from the original. And in the Greek, it can mean drawn from, or something closer to like a mirror-like representation. So as I look at this painting, do you know how valuable you are? Do you know how much he delights in you simply because you were made in his very image and drawn from himself? And if we just go a little further, just 15 chapters later, after this verse in Genesis, we actually come to the story of Hagar. And she's the Egyptian servant to Abraham and Sarah. But I was sitting and wondering why her story was popping up in my mind. And I actually was trying to put myself in her shoes. Because I'm guessing, I'm not going to go into the details of all that was going on in her life, but it was hard. And she was actually trying to run away from the situation that she was facing. And she decided that running away and being by herself was probably easier, so that gives you an idea of what she was carrying. And I'm guessing in that moment, Hagar didn't really feel like she was made in God's image. I'm guessing she felt alone, not enough, angry, hopeless. I'm guessing she was wondering many times if God really cared about her. But then it says that an angel of the Lord found her by a stream and encourages her to go back to her situation, but gives her this word. You're with child, you're going to have a son, and you're to name him Ishmael. And the name Ishmael means God hears, for God has heard your cries. And this is one of my favorite parts of the Bible because something amazing happens. Hagar, in the midst of her pain and confusion, hurt, a woman of no status, nothing, she gives God a name. And it's the first time in the Bible that we see someone give God a new name. God is the one naming people in the Bible, and now this woman gives God a name. And it's El Roi, which means God who sees. For I have seen the one who sees me. She realizes who she's talking to. And as I was sitting with that, I was thinking about the God who sees. And how did this change everything for her? I think that was maybe her back of the church moment. This one moment. Because she did return to everything she'd been running from, but something was different. I think it's because she knew who she was. Because when you see the one who sees you, you know who you are. You know who you belong to. You know your identity. You know you're more than enough. And can you think of a time in your life where somebody saw you and how powerful that was? That's what I mean when I say love is measured by presence. So the last 3 things I just want to share as I wrap up here. Just about that idea of what presence looks like in the story. My favorite part is how God pursued Hagar. It doesn't even record that she was crying out to him. But it's just such a good reminder that there's nowhere we can go. I used to just beat myself up because if I was angry, upset, I felt like I couldn't bring that to God. I felt like that wasn't good enough. I had to be faithful. And I had someone correct me once and said, lament is one of the most faithful prayers you can give to God because you're still running towards him. The second is presence here started with hearing Ishmael, God who hears, for God has heard you and your cries. Again, can we think of anybody who's just a good listener in our lives? If you're wondering today what presence looks like, that's what I just want to invite you to. I think there's an art to listening because sometimes I think we need to have answers. And maybe it's just about listening today. The ministry of presence is listening. And the last point is just this idea of what presence looks like in someone's pain. I know it's a hard thing to enter into, and I know for me, I always feel like I might make it worse or I don't know how to show up. Again, the ministry or idea of presence isn't about how we do it. It's just that proximity of saying, you're enough. You matter so much. I'm just going to be here with you. And I learned something about trauma, that so often that happens because we can't perceive anyone that's happy to be with us in our pain. That's such an illustration to the power of presence and how we can reflect this image for each other into the world. So my last thoughts are this: if we are created in his image, if we are reflecting him, if we're mirroring him, it's no wonder to me that the greatest commandment in the Bible is to love one another. What does that look like? I think it's the most powerful thing we can do for each other by giving each other our presence. I think this is the path to true transformation. I know it was in my own story. I won't forget a face of anyone that was with me in some of my hard chapters. I think it's as simple as hearing each other, seeing each other. I really think every single time we do that, we are bringing heaven to earth every single time. So this Mother's Day, I just want to remind all of you how valuable you are, who you belong to. And it's just an invitation to think about presence today for all the people that God has called into your life and called you to. Thank you so much for this time today in this message.
Jesse, first of all, thank you for that incredible word. Please give her another hand. And just a couple of things. First of all, everybody wants to know, is this for sale?
Yes.
You said a couple of things, and I like to take notes and remember some things, but I think something really profound that hit me, and maybe some of you too, is you said, I don't want your healing, I want your answers. Who here, just raise your hand, did that put some words to something that you were ever felt personally? And I just think, raise your hand, just let her know that I think, wow, I probably have felt that, but have not articulated that thought. I don't want your healing, I just want your answers. And I know as we go through life, that's the case for us. And then love is measured by presence. And that is, I think, also a very, very profound statement to make, and something for us to take home, is that what do we long for? We long for God's presence, and that is so beautiful. And something that we talk about here is the Hebrew word for presence is faces.
Oh, that's good.
Isn't that cool?
That's really good.
So that's something you can add that to your message
I gotta
next
add that
time.
to
I'm
my
just telling
notes,
you.
yeah.
But I think as I'm listening to that and thinking about how important the presence is, what it is the face of God is important, and that God who sees me with his face, he sees my face. And I just think what a beautiful, profound thing. But Hagar too, just really pointing out, I don't think probably anywhere in the world today anybody is preaching a Mother's Day message that has Hagar in it.
Right.
But I thought to myself, that is incredibly profound, actually, because if you don't know who Hagar is, go back and read the story of Hagar. Hagar lived amongst the tents of Abraham, and she knew who Jehovah was. She knew him. And so what an incredible correlation there. Thank you for that, because there are a lot of moms, I think, who could maybe identify with Hagar and also have never put that thought in place.
Right.
And just answers versus presence, and just realizing that God has a face and his presence is just that, and that is what we desire. Amen. So thank you for that. High five. Your good stuff. We got the microphone thing figured out, and just what a blessing to us. But Jesse, would you just tell us about your art in the lobby real quick?
Yes, I have some prints available. These are some of my latest pieces out there. Some were up here with you guys at Easter, and I have my book Walk With Me for sale out there too. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. I'll hang out outside.
All right, so we can eat all that up, right? I mean, just buy it all up and go home. Bless your mom, bless yourself, put something in your office, on your desk, on all the walls in your house or whatever, and I'll bet you have more, right? If we
You can go check out my website.
what's
There's
your
other
website?
things there. Just jessidecorsi.com.
That couldn't be any easier. Give Jesse another thank you. Here's what we're going to do. Why don't you stand? We're going to close with a song, and we're going to be able to end just a few minutes earlier than typical. And again, we want you to make sure, hang out today. Take a picture, get your family together, whether your mom's here or not, grab a picture. But also, please, go into the cafeteria, hang out, have a cold brew and a lemonade. It's for everybody. And happy Mother's Day, everyone.